wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
And that starts with our show and our means of taking care of you, which is by entertaining you. And that involves us telling you all the reasons why you decided to attend. I'm sure you know them well. But now it's time to turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spotlight on the Multiverse. We're back after a little hiatus. I really appreciate you all joining us and being here. And I have the pleasure of having a new guest who I've never met before, but I'm real excited to talk to, Mr. Glenn Parris. So, hello, Glenn. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How you doing?
Good. Tell everybody, I always like to start the conversation by letting you kind of just give us a little bit about yourself. So tell everybody what you do and who you are and everything like that.
Sure. Well, the boring part of my life is my day job. I'm a doctor, and I take care of people all day with rare diseases like lupus and vasculitis and arteritis and nephropathy and that sort of thing, gout. But I have the most excitement at night when I start creating.
I love it. So how many multiverses is this for you? How many times have you been in
this will be my third multiverse con.
Awesome. What makes you keep coming back to it?
It's fun. Let's see, on the first one, I just kind of got invited into a sort of this role-playing panel. Mm-hmm. And I just had a blast. I put on all kinds of crazy accents, and we really just improvised, and we just pinged off of each other all afternoon. It was great.
I love it. Is gaming kind of one of your favorite passions? Is that what you love to do? Is to be a gamer?
Oddly enough, I mean, I went to a STEM school in high school, and I've focused on sciences throughout my entire life. I kind of like games, but I'm not a big gamer. My son is. Many of my friends are, but I'm not a big gamer. In spite of the fact that my current trilogy is just perfectly fit for gaming, role-playing gaming, digital gaming, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. I'm curious from your perspective too. Have you been to it since it's moved to Peachtree City? Did you go last year?
No, I missed it last year. I'm eager to go. I've been to the King and Queen building, where it's been held. That was actually the cover of one of my mystery books.
That's awesome. I love that. And we have some hellos. Hello. Hi, Tiffany.
Hello, everybody.
But yeah, so you haven't been since Peachtree. So is that more convenient for you, or is that a little bit cross town?
It's cross town, but look, I can drive. I haven't hit anybody yet.
I love it. You mentioned that you're an author. You've written some books and done some things in that realm. Tell a little bit about what you've written.
So I guess I've been writing since 1991. I had this notion that I could write a science fiction novel. And I knew nothing about writing. I knew nothing about editing. I cobbled together a group of people who could help me. And it was sort of, you know how it is, when you're trying to self-publish, you get people who do stuff for you, when they have spare time. And if they start running out of spare time, things kind of get left. So, the enterprise didn't quite launch. But I came back to it because it really is my passion, my love. I came back to it, I guess, in 2018, and I rekindled that story, Dragon's Heir, the archaeologist tale, and brought it back to life. And people seemed to like it, but they were left scratching their heads. It's like, I don't know these people. I don't know where they come from. So I really had to do the prequel to it. So I did, and this is the cover to the prequel.
Look at that.
So we're looking at launching that on the 27th.
Oh, nice. So it'll be ready for Multiverse.
It's already ready.
You were in the Space Funk anthology as well, were you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I wrote a story called Third World. That was actually the very first story I've ever written.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's a short story, but it's the first story I've ever written.
I
don't know if you had a chance to read it.
So
Cool. Well, I won't spoil it for you.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten to your story quite yet, but I'm currently reading the anthology as we're talking. So
yeah, it starts with a kid who stole some sneakers in 1975 or so, and essentially was sentenced to jail and ended up going for the rest of his life. But there's a really interesting twist at the end.
I'm sold. I'm ready to go. I might skip ahead and we'll read it right now. Is diversity something that you're really keen on? Is representing for you something that you really strive to do within the science fiction community and what you write?
I do. I'm probably a little less on the nose than many people represent.
Mm-hmm.
But I represent fiercely. I think that there's a place for everybody, and I think that a lot of the barriers that we put up are artificial.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you start crossing those barriers, you really get into areas that you never imagined, and you really have a lot of fun with. And I think that a lot of my writing falls into that category. A lot of the things that you come in expecting or you don't see. And a lot of things that you do see, you may not expect.
I love that. I'm kind of curious from, you mentioned you have a boring day, you have a boring life and an exciting life, but I mean, you're doing something that is just amazing during the day.
Yeah. When I said I have a boring life, I was joking.
I know.
I've done this for 40 years, and I would not have traded it for anything.
Yeah, I got it. I think though, what's interesting to me is that there are two separate pursuits, right? And I'm curious for you, how has writing helped the day job, and vice versa? How have both affected each other for you?
They've really honed my storytelling skills. When you step into a room with a patient, you're learning a story. You get them to tell their story, and you help them. The beginning, middle, end, and then analysis, and then you try to solve the problem in the story. It's not really all that different if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you use different muscles though when you're creating versus when you're, surgically repairing?
Absolutely. Well, I'm not a surgeon. I'm a rheumatologist, and a lot of what we do is investigative.
Mm-hmm.
We're really sort of the Sherlock Holmes of the medical world. I sometimes joke with patients when they don't understand what a rheumatologist is. I says, "Have you ever seen the show House?" He wants to be a rheumatologist.
So research is not a problem for you then?
No, we actually have a research arm in our practice.
Are you? Do you? I'm curious, science fiction is about the advancement of worlds and technology and things of that nature. Are you kind of, is that a curious element for you within your practice as well? Do you kind of look at what the future might hold for where we are in medicine and diagnoses and things of that nature?
Well, as a rheumatologist, I'm also an immunologist, and I've been fortunate enough to have a hand in development of new medications.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
yeah, so we treat things like scleroderma. We treat things like inflammatory lung disease. Believe it or not, that actually falls into rheumatology. We treat diseases like lupus. We come up with new treatments for gout. So we are certainly involved in a lot of this, and I think my imagination helps me think about these things and think outside of the box.
Hmm.
So, for my colleagues, I come up with a lot of questions that haven't been asked before. And that's where knowledge begins, with a question.
Hmm.
Then you have to think about, okay, what tools we have to answer this question. And a lot of these tools have gotten rusty. They've, lain by the wayside. We haven't thought about them in years. You put certain things together, and it makes all of us think. And I stir things up in some of my colleagues, and they, remember things that they were trained on, and what they've come up with and what they've experienced in their practices. And it's really a knowledge bank
Hmm.
that we get in there and we kind of mix it up.
A lot of that starts with questions. Is that how you start your writing too? Do you have a central question that you need to answer and kind of work through that?
The favorite question is, what if? Okay, so my current book, The Exodus Heresy, started with a what if. I was actually, this is about 35 years ago. I was watching a documentary. I tell this story all the time. I was watching a documentary on dinosaurs, and one of the paleontologists, Bob Bacher, turned to the camera. He says, everything that we know about the dinosaurs is based on 3% of the fossil record. And I says, then we really don't know anything. What if they didn't die out at all? What if they just left? And that was the what if that started the whole trilogy.
There's also this interesting discussion. I'll put it in quotes. Discussion about hard science fiction versus softer, lighter science fiction fare, as a lot of people call it. Where do you fall in the spectrum for that? Are you someone who kind of mixes both? Because I would imagine you have a lot of technical writing background with what you do in your day job. So I'm curious if that falls into your science fiction, or is the science fiction more of a fantasy kind of escapism for you in terms of how you write?
Well, Joe, you hit the nail right on the head. So I'm a rebel in by nature. I,
I love it.
I like to turn that whole concept of soft science fiction and hard science fiction on its ear. When I grew up, I always imagined that science fiction writers were these brilliant scientists.
Mhm.
And as I began to meet some of my heroes, I discovered that no, a lot of them don't have any science fiction background or scientific background at all. It's like
Right.
I'm more qualified than any of them. So I write for the person who just likes a good story and a good adventure, but I wrap it up in things that have a lot of solid science fiction foundation. So as I said before, I went to a STEM school, and I grew up reading Larry Niven and
Mhm.
Frank Herbert and Isaac
Mhm.
Asimov and Andrea Norton and Anne McCaffrey. These were my heroes, and I began reading them. And I read. I don't read like everybody else does. I kind of read and I stop and I daydream. I look out the window. What if such and such? And I go off on all kinds of tangents when I read
Uh-huh.
a book. It takes me forever to read a book, but because I do that, and when I finally got the gumption up to write my own stories, I said, okay, there are going to be people out there poking holes in everything. And, well, what about this? And of course, that, that's not the way it works. So I made a point of building in, yes, that is the way it works. and I put that into. I felt the best way to do it was to put it in a glossary, a la Frank Herbert in Dune. That inspired me. I said, yeah, let's go ahead and build a glossary. I found that one of the most interesting things about that book and that series, the glossary in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this. And unfortunately, so many people will read my books and not realize there's a glossary there until they get to the end. They finish the book, then they find the glossary and they're ticked at me.
I remember the glossary. See, Dune was my introduction to science fiction and fantasy. When I was 10 years old, my father took us to a bookstore and said, pick out any book you want. And I was looking for the biggest, thickest book because I wanted to impress him. And I pulled Dune off the shelf. And at 10 years old, I'm reading this book. And he's like, well, now you got to read it. And so I was reading it. I didn't get any of the subtext, didn't get any of the context. But I remember the glossary helping me with my vocabulary, especially. Because I think for young readers, it's okay to read something you don't understand, but then gaining some sort of knowledge from it, even if it's just words that you've never heard of before, and being able to apply that into the right text and right subtext and right context, I think it matters, right?
When I read, and to your point, when I read back then, I started reading at 10, like you, and I ran into all kinds of words that I didn't know. So I would always have a blank sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil, and I'd write down the words that I didn't know, and I'd look them up. And I would inevitably have 10, 20, 30 words every time I read a book that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I learned more and more. Do I remember all the words? No, I probably don't. But as I read, it says that's a really cool way of explaining or saying or expressing that. I also like listening to British humor and British literature because they have an interesting way of saying things. So I kind of mix those things in with my writing. But I also realized as I went through my medical training that I also had used a lot of words that a lot of very highly educated people just don't use.
Yeah.
And, in medicine, that kind of jargon, we use it all the time. We don't think twice about it. So I had to tone that down as I wrote. I realized that people liked the taste of it, but they didn't like to be submerged in it. So
Sure.
I really had to figure out how to balance that.
Yeah, there is something for playing to an audience a little bit in writing, and I think that is important. I'm curious from your perspective too, as a Herbert fan, with the subtext and the nature of the idea of the spiritual elements and things of that nature, and getting in the way of science, and kind of giving this incredible. There's just a lot of different subtexts in there that just really cover. And I got to imagine in your day job, you come across people who are worried about that in their real life. And so I'm curious for you, how that's kind of shaped how you, not only how you write, but how you do medicine. Is that fair to say that it's kind of shaped you?
I'm doctors are strange. We're weird people. We become very good at reading body language. And we realize that a lot of times when people are talking about something, they're really not talking about what they're talking about. They're talking about something completely different. And I've learned to read that between the lines in books and the subtleties. When I read a book, I'm not only looking at the main character and what he or she is doing, but I'm looking at what's going on around them. And especially in movies, the things that are going on around the main character, I love. And they're little things.
Yeah.
I was watching The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. And, I'm watching this exchange between the two of them. And she keeps rubbing her leg. And he looks down at it and looks up and gives a half smile and says, "Go ahead, scratch." And ladies don't like scratching. There's something about scratching that drives women crazy. And it was just the funniest thing to see that. It's one of my favorite things about that particular movie. But subtext like that, little things, I guess what they call in the film business, stage business. And I love that. And the great actors always do that kind of thing. and we have, we have a class of very young actors who are just phenomenal. And, of course, then there were the old classics in the black and white era before I was even born that I really enjoyed watching them act. So I like to try to build that kind of thing into my writing, and in the hopes that people will see it and appreciate it for what it is, and go back and read it a second time, maybe a third time, or recommend it to someone else.
I love it. So I'm curious. You mentioned that patients come to you and tell you a story. Do your characters do the same? Or are you one of the folks that your characters speak to you, or are you guiding them? How do your characters develop through your writing?
Okay, like children, my characters do not listen to what I say, and they will do what they want to do. So I can create a character, I can create a setting, but I can't make a character act out of character. You just, if you do it right, the character will almost guide you through the book. You can put in milestones, this has to happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen, and they have to go here, here, and here. But the way they get there is unique to that particular character. So once I get a character in mind, and I actually know this character, the same way I would know a friend that I've known since I was in second grade, or someone I went to school with, or somebody who, cried on my shoulder when, they lost their first love, or a parent died, or, they carried a dead pet, to my door in tears. What am I going to do? That kind of consolation, I do with my characters, and I get to know them. And, I hope my readers get to know them the same way. My characters are not two-dimensional. They're not interchangeable. I hope I don't repeat characters. I hope that each character has a different personality. And I don't always do the character Bible. Some people make a point of doing that. I do that to some extent. I know who they are, but I don't always go that deep into it, because I also like to let my character grow.
I do kind of an unwritten interview with them a little bit,
I like that.
and kind of I look for like you mentioned before. I look for the little things that they do, like if they're afraid to scratch in public or something like that nature. I look for those things because I think those are the things that frame the narrative better than and reveal a lot about the character than just describing a character straight up, right? So
it's a way of making even an alien character, somebody who's other, makes them human.
Yeah,
and it makes you question, what is it exactly about us that makes us human?
I love that. So tell everybody a little bit. You've got the prequel coming out very soon. So tell everybody a little bit about the characters involved in that story and who they are.
So the story is told by a character from the second book, and it's told in the third book about the first book. And it tells about the arrogance of the people who lived before the KT event 66 million years ago. It's the story that everybody knows the ending to, but nobody knows how they got there. And that's what I had to really flesh out. And the story starts with a dream, a bad dream that's not just a dream. And they spend the entire book trying to prevent this terrible thing from happening. And we all know that it ended up happening. So, that they're doomed to fail. But the measures that they take to try to avoid it are amazing. You're thinking, now, okay, that seems like it would work. Why didn't it work? And then you get into the politics and the personalities and the backbiting, backstabbing, and the conniving and the divisions in the politics and all, the betrayals. I just had a blast with it. It's the most Machiavellian story you'll ever read.
It sounds like you're Rogue One, Glenn.
Pardon me?
It sounds like you're Rogue One.
Yeah. Rogue One. I hope it is. I hope it is.
Are you a big Easter egger? Do you like to leave little thoughts and things like that would? I'm sorry. Did you not hear?
No, I'm listening to you.
Oh yeah. Are you a big Easter egger? Do you like to leave little nuggets from previous books into this one to kind of give fans a little taste of remembrance and enjoyment?
Yep, I tie all kinds of Easter eggs. I love the ancient astronaut theories and such. And in this book, I turn it on its head. There were ancient astronauts, but they weren't from out there. They're from right here, and they looked and sounded a lot like us. In fact, they were the best of us, but they were also the worst of us.
Hmm. Are you selling at Multiverse, or are you just gonna be there to do panels and hang out with everybody?
I think I'm selling. I think I got a table. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but I'll certainly have my books there, and I'll do some signing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you always want to have your books no matter what, right? Because as soon as the panel's over, people come up to you and ask for some books,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, I've also got some friends who are going to be there. So
okay.
Kyoko M is one of my best
Uh,
friends. Milton Davis is going to be there, and I think Dedrin Sneed is going to be there. And these are all good friends of mine.
nice.
And we spend time just chopping it up on panels, and we love to talk about each other's books because we're all big fans of each other.
Yeah, I know Kyoko and Milton pretty well. In fact, Milton was on the last episode we had. So yeah,
Yeah.
and of course he is the reason this exists.
Absolutely, space is
You
the place.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Milton is actually putting out a different series of mine. So I also write
yeah,
crime fiction, and he's
yeah.
putting out my book. It's the mystery doc, the Jack Wheaton Mystery doc series, and he's putting out the Painkillers, and that's about a young medical scientist who's part of a team that creates a billion-dollar drug for the painful condition fibromyalgia, and the pharmacy company that wants to hide some of the flaws in it, but wants to make a fortune selling it. And they got to get rid of her to do it. So it's a chase story.
I love it. You said it sounds like you're a big noir guy. You like the noir kind of
Oh,
idea.
I like that. I like to build that in. I
Uh-huh.
like sword and sorcery. I like space opera, and the Exodus Heresy and the Iflu saga that it's part of puts a lot of those different things in. So there's a lot of Mission Impossible. It borders in some ways on superhero stories. I've always been inspired by Marvel, where you have all these characters who have real world problems that everybody else can relate to, despite having these amazing abilities. And I love tragedy and comedy. So there's always a little bit of humor in my stories, but it's not really comedy. It's humor, but not comedy.
Mhm.
And I give me a half a chance, and I will break your heart with a character.
Uh,
You'll cheer them, you'll hate them, and you will absolutely cry with them. That's a promise.
it sounds like though. It sounds like that's the more authentic, realistic aspect of what you write is the breaking of the
It
heart.
is. When I've probably seen between 20 and 30,000 people
Uh-huh.
in my lifetime, and I've gotten intimate stories from them. I
Yeah.
mean, behind the doors of an exam room, people will tell you everything. I have not used anything specific in any of my stories on any patient. I respect them too much. I would never do that.
Right.
But learning the human condition and learning how similar so many of us are, people who you would never put together or compare or have similar stories, you'd be surprised how similar their heartbreaking stories, their pride and loves are, but they're so similar and not nearly as different as you think. And it's just wonderful to share in that. And my patients have really trusted me and shared with me such details that even family members don't know about them. So knowing that much about human beings gives me a distinct edge in writing characters.
And they're facing things that are traumatic and very
Yeah.
long term,
There
that
are
they have
things
to
that
deal with.
there are things that patients know that they're not going to survive. There are
Hmm.
things that they know that will never be cured. They are shocked and awed at things that can be cured or can be treated or can be recovered. The tears that you see when you make a diagnosis that's been missed many times.
Mm.
That those are things that you can't measure
Mm.
and you can't put a price on. I mean, if I didn't have to keep the lights on at home and at work, I'd do this job for free. I really would.
Are you encouraged by the human spirit? Do you feel like the human spirit wins out more than it doesn't?
I am the ultimate optimist. And I spend probably half my time with patients talking about their lives outside of their disease than I do about their disease, because that I can put together fairly quickly and come up with a plan and really dig into. But I know these people. I know people I started taking care of in the early 1990s. I'm now taking care of their adult grandchildren, and they remember me when they were little children, and they tell stories about their grandparents or their parents to their children who are old enough to understand. And it's just nice to see that kind of 3 and 4 generation stuff going on.
Well, Glenn, this has been a really wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and join me and be a part of this. And I look forward to meeting you in October in person and picking your brain a little bit more. And it's just been fantastic. So thank you so much. And
You're
tell
welcome.
everybody where they can find you and find
Sure.
these wonderful books of yours.
You can find all my books on Amazon, and that's The Exodus Heresy, coming out in, I think it's going to be on the 27th of June. And Dragon's Heir is going to be republished by a different publisher with a new cover. And
Nice.
The cover art is going to look a lot like this.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, my gosh.
So that's going to come out probably in the fall. And the third book in the trilogy is called Earthbound, and that will come out in early 2026.
Nice. Awesome. Well, everybody, go check it out and get Space Funk while you're at it.
Yeah.
I've got a story in that. And
so my website is really easy. It's Glenn Parris, Glenn with 2 N's, Parris with 2 R's, because I'm double trouble, .com.
Love it. All right, Glenn. All right, everybody. We'll be right back with Nikki Nelson Hicks. And we also have a very important message to tell you about, which is right now about the charity that we're involved with Multiverse. And so we'll do that. And then we'll be back with Nikki Nelson Hicks. As we count down to the Multiverse convention, one of the many things that has been important to this con from the very beginning is its charity involvement. And this year, Multiverse is teaming with the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is an American nonprofit organization that was founded in 1998. It focuses on suicide prevention efforts for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning youth. And they offer a toll-free telephone number where confidential assistance is provided by trained counselors. And right now is a very special opportunity, because if you contribute through the Multiverse link, any amount that you give will be quadrupled. So if you give $25, the donation will actually be $100. Now you can only do this for a limited time, in fact until June 8th, but that doesn't mean you can't give at any point after June 8th. In fact, you can use that link to give well beyond even the convention. So please, anything you can give, anything you can do from now through the convention is appreciated, and help support this wonderful cause. And I just want to, hey Nikki, I just want to mention real quickly that June 8th is Sunday, so if you're seeing this before then, please, and you're considering donating, please do so during that time period, because it means a lot, and it means quadruple of what you're doing. So even if you give $10, you'll make it 40, and it'll be wonderful. So we really appreciate anything you can give. And again, even if you don't make the deadline and you're seeing this afterwards, the link is always there, and you can always donate all the way through the convention and even beyond the convention itself. Trevor Project is a very important project, and it is something that we're, everybody's really passionate about. And so please be a part of that if you can. And that being said, what a wonderful way to segue into Nikki Nelson Hicks, because I am so grateful she's here, and I'm so grateful that she's now a multiversian. So
yes, this is my second time at being Multiverse, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun. I really kind of cut back on places that I'm doing this year, this Multiverse was definitely one that I was not going to miss out on.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool hanging out with not only you, but with your husband as well. That was really neat.
He will be there too. He's always there. So yeah.
Tell everybody, for anybody who doesn't know you, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Hi. I am Nikki Nelson Hicks, and I write a plethora of stories. Primarily anything that deals with the dark and the strange, speculative. I write things from, well, Sherlock Holmes to some weird Western to some pulp. I have a whole series of pulp stuff. I've got some just good old-fashioned monster. Rumble is just a good old-fashioned monster book. Some steampunk. Right now I am working on a collection of short stories. I have one collection of short stories. It's all horror-based. It's called Stone Baby and Other Strange Tales. The one that I'm working on now, and I've been working on, and I know Joe's sick of hearing about it, but is working on for about 2 years now, is Politics of Children and Other Stories of Revenge. That is currently in editorial hell. Although I have the best editor in the world. She is absolutely wonderful. She reads my stuff, and the first time when I finally found her, I sent her my things. She was like, "This is great. This is good. Do you want to make it great?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." And so she's been absolutely fabulous, especially for this. Again, there's like 5 stories in that book, in that particular collection. And this last story we're working on right now, the thing she told me started making me think, yeah, you're right. I really had not found the spine of that story, even though I've written that bloody thing for freaking years. I'm so sick of it. But she helped me really find what really was the heart and the spine of it. And so I have been basically rewriting it again from that angle, and it's really, really working out great. So yeah, that's been wonderful. But other than that, I wrote a bunch of things. I'm still trying to find myself in my voice. But no, I love it. It's a part of the ADHD brain. I want to do all the things. I'm like a little squirrel. I want to do all the things, and I love all the weirdness, and I want to do all the weirdness. I can't imagine just writing one genre. That would be so boring.
I was at Con this weekend, and we were talking about the reasons we write and what makes us write. You know, it was just a casual conversations that writers have at the bar. And actually, this was down at the authors' tables, but we were having this conversation, and I mentioned to them if the reason why I write is because my brain would swell up and explode if I didn't get these things out of my head.
Yes.
You know?
It's almost as if I'm not being my true self, and I am not a good person when I'm not writing. My husband will tell you I am not a good person. The depression gets bad. I become a real roaring bitch. I'm not a good person because I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, no one's happy. So the world must burn. So yeah, if I'm not writing or at least involved in some kind of creative project, it's not a good thing. I need to do that. That keeps my wheels spinning. So
how's the Playhouses going for you? Are you still doing that aspect of your life?
No. The Playhouse. I actually turned down 2 stage manager jobs, telling them I'm sorry, but I've got to focus on this because I'm not one of those people that can do stage managing and writing. When I'm stage managing because everything in my world is now.
Lot.
It does. It's amazing what you have to do to keep everything rolling behind the scenes. No one sees you. No one knows what you've done. But trust me, it's the stage managers and the people who actually pull the strings that keep things on. Actors are just meat puppets. They're just meat puppets. And then backstage having to keep the meat puppets happy and make sure they're not having a meltdown and hiding the booze. That's a big thing. Hide the booze from the meat puppets. So, but no, being a stage manager is like being a mom for 5 completely insane bunch of people. So no, I can't. I've learned that I can't, so I've told them I'm sorry, I just can't. I've got to finish this project because I want to. I'm really hoping that with Marissa's help, I can really make this this particular collection one of my standoffs. I'm really hoping to use it as a bait to get an agent. My goal is to get an agent and or find a really good indie publisher to do it. I'm gonna give myself a year, and if I can't find someone, I'll just do it myself. And of course, pay to get it layout, and I already have the artwork. So if I do it myself, I already got the artwork, but I really want to use it to find an agent and go to that next level, because from all of my friends who are big time writers, it seems you've got to have an agent. you have got to have an agent to get you in that next thing, I guess. At least, yeah.
How was the experience of selling at Multiverse for you last year?
Oh, it wasn't very good. I didn't sell very much at all. But I enjoyed the panels. The panels were great. The people were great. I mean, it's just the vibe is so awesome. It's so uplifting and so supportive. But no, for me, sales were crap. But I have found, and this is okay, this play wasn't what you want to hear. But it's been my experience when you go to a con or an event that's primarily writer-based, you don't sell much because writers are poor. And we just don't have the money. So I gave away more than I sold. But if I go to something that's more reader-based, oh yeah, I sell. Like at Southern Festival of Books, I got my table money back plus $200. And that's a lot since the tables there are like $400. So, but you've got thousands of people. It's a 2-day event and people just kind of wander in. And it's just been my experience that if it's reader-based, you sell more than writer-based. Writer-based, though, you make more friends, you make more contacts, and you might, that's the reason you go to the writer things, is to make contacts and hopefully get gigs. That's how I've gotten a lot of gigs, is at writer things.
Well, this year might be a little different. I think they're going to cater toward more of the locals this year than they were previously, because I believe on the Sunday that the con happened last year, they were doing this golf cart parade, and like a lot of locals came in, and that's where a lot of people made the majority of their sales. So,
and I think we left early Sunday morning to get back home because it was a really long drive to get back home.
So yeah, I think this year they're going to try and get the locals more involved early on and get them there. Of course. So.
The 1 year I'm not a vendor. 1 year I'm not vending. Well, it's fine. It's fine. I'm going for the fun.
Okay, awesome. Well, there's nothing wrong with that as well.
Nope.
I mean, you're going to network. You're going to meet more people, and hey, you'll meet a bunch of people who have agents. So you never know.
You never know. They may like you, read your stuff, and go, hey, my agent might like to represent you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm always looking. That's all you do. That's all you can do. But, yeah, I just keep working, keep pumping it out.
Along those lines, I had introduced you to a specific panel last year that I think you probably fell in love with.
Which one?
And are going to try and do this year in Monster Mash.
I loved Monster Mash. That was so much fun. So much fun. Whoa. You have to be really uber clever to be a good monster masher.
Yeah.
And know your monsters. Because there were a couple of monsters. I was like, I don't know who that is. I'm having to Google it up because it's a particular, a franchise that I simply am not big on. But yeah, that was so much fun. So much fun. And again, if you guys go to Multiverse, make sure you go to Monster Mash because it's just so much fun.
I mean, was there other panels that you really enjoyed that you got to experience while you were there? I
went to the romanticy, which I hate. I hate that word, but it was very interesting because I did not know anything about that particular genre. Not my genre. I'm not a romance person, but it was interesting the absolute passion that all these people who came to. It was a late at night panel. Passion they have for these books. They were just absolutely just frothing about these books. I'm like, well, I'd like to get people like that, but I just don't like that. We did a really good one about, what was it? It was the detective one, and that was a lot of fun. I was on the panel, so I can't really say, but we had a great time. That was a lot of fun. I really wish I could have gone to the podcasting one. I really wanted to go to that, but I got busy doing something. I wasn't able to go to that one. Weren't
you there at the meet and greet?
I went to the meet and greet. I wanted to go to the one that talking about podcasting. Oh, maybe it was the one, but we didn't talk so much about podcast. I really wanted to learn more about podcasting because I would like to learn more about podcasting.
You got into more of the YouTube conversation there at that point.
Well, I just would like to learn more about it because I know that it's you got to have a lot of skills. Which where do I find these skill sets? I'm not stupid. I can learn these skill sets. I just need to learn more how to find them. But to me,
because I was thinking you sat right next to me there.
We did about that. We just started talking about stuff, and we didn't really talk about anything specific. I got more of a meet and greet, and there was the people with the kids. I remember that sitting next to me.
So interesting about that. And I've been to several meet and greets during that time period, during Multiverse, and that one was very interesting because it kind of broke off into little groups.
It did.
Which was really fascinating.
That was cool. But it shows that people are comfortable.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they need to glom onto you. They can actually, and they start talking amongst themselves, which means you've got people who are comfortable and really enjoy what they're doing and having a good time, which is really, Multiverse is probably one of the most accepting. If you're really kind of scared about coming to a con, if you're new to this kind of lifestyle, it is so welcoming. You never once feel like anyone's thinking, what's your Amazon rank? You know, that kind of crap. You don't, and I've been to things like that. I have, where you're just like, I don't need this. Did I pay for this? But no, it's extremely welcoming.
I love that. Is there something you didn't do last year that you were hoping to do this year?
Probably do more with more people. I was with my husband. I don't want to say, but when you're with somebody, sometimes you have to make sure you take care of them too.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to get bored. He's not a writer. This is really his world. And he's basically just there to watch the table when I'm not there. And so I worry about him getting bored. So sometimes I kind of wish, he wasn't there so that I could go and just kind of hang out with people and stay up all night long with you guys.
Yeah.
But Brian's it's 10 o'clock, it's time to go to bed.
I had really good conversations with Brian.
Oh, he's fine. Yeah, he's fine. Just that it's 10 o'clock, it's time to go to bed. So it's like, yeah. He's fine. But he's very smart, and he's got a lot of interesting stories because he was a Marine. He's got lots of background. He's also a reenactor.
We talked a lot about that.
Yes. Oh yes, and he's a reenactor, so he talks a lot about Romans and he's got all kinds of interesting, very niche subjects. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
You're somebody who I've known quite a long time now. It's been a while now. We've known each other for a bit. It has been
pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And gosh.
4 or 5 years at least.
Yeah.
I'm curious, for you going through this journey, how do you feel like you've grown as an author? Do you feel like you're at a point right now? I mean, you're at pivot point. It sounds like for yourself in your career in doing this, where you're kind of like, I want to get to that next step and kind of move past, part-time or off-time writer. You kind of want to be a full-time writer kind of idea.
I would love that. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but having a day job with pays my bills, gives me insurance, I can go to the doctor, that's great. But I think the thing that I'm realizing about myself right now is, like, for instance, just a couple of years ago, I was in the middle of working on a project, and it was actually Ron. Ron came up to me and said, "Hey, can you write this story for me?" Okay. Mm-hmm. I just put my stuff aside and wrote his story. It never came to anything, but I spent 2 months away from myself to write his stuff. Same thing as someone would come to me again and say, "Hey, can you stop what you're doing and write this?" I no longer do that. I now say, no, I'm putting my project first. Or they'll say, well, there's this thing, I'm not really interested in it, but I'll write it for you. I just wrote something recently. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to get pay anything, but he's a friend. So I wrote it for him. But I don't do that anymore. I don't want to anymore. I don't have the time. I'm about to hit 60. I'm hitting 60 in about 6 weeks. I only got 15 years left on this planet. I gotta work on my own shit. I can't do that anymore. So that's one thing I am finding. Like, for instance, a lot of my first stuff that I started writing, even the Jack Wheaton Mystery, I just fell into. Someone said, "Hey, would you write this thing?" I wrote this thing. Next thing I know, 4 years of my life are devoted to this, and I really don't care about it. I'm just writing it. I'm having a good time, but this isn't something that I want to really invest my life into. I'd like to be able to focus on stories that matter to me, stories that I think are fun and creative and twisty. Like, listening to the guests before and listening to other guests, and they're always talking about, they're all educated, and I'm writing these notes to myself. How educated are you? What have you done? What have you done with your life? What do you have to say? And I don't know. And then I remember Hunter S. Thompson. He didn't go to college.
No.
and he created a whole genre.
Yeah.
So you can do this. I'm pep talking to myself. You can do this. You can do this. It's just going to be a little extra hard for you because you don't have that extra little bump. But
I think you make it harder for yourself than you give yourself credit for. Maybe. To be honest, you're in you have a phenomenal talent, and that is you can creep the best of us out.
I do creep people out. I love when I get stuff back from my editor. I mean, she's very great, and she will tell me, work on this, work on that. But I do love little bits where she goes like, "Okay, this disturbed me a lot. Okay, this I'm going to have nightmares about. What are you doing?" And because I like that a lot. My goal with my horror is I want to creep you out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write. I've never really written any body horror or anything. Well, that's not true. Stone Baby's kind of body horror, but I don't write like anything that's unnecessarily visceral. If there's gore in it, it's because there's gore. Like, for instance, A Beautiful Thing has a lot of gore, but it's because it has to have the gore for that scene to happen. I once, when I was editing an anthology years and years ago, one of the stories I got from a guy, because it's a horror anthology, he thought that horror meant I must be uber awful, and the whole story was about this guy raping a woman with a chainsaw. And I instantly said, no thank you.
Yeah.
And now whenever I see him, all I think is, yeah, you're the chainsaw raper guy.
Yeah.
Why would you think that anyone would... There's no point to this story.
Yeah.
For me, horror has to have a point. You can't just have monsters. There has to be a point.
And you're a big historian, too, so you know that there's a lot of lore and occultism and things of that nature that go along with that. See, in that way, you're very educated.
Well, if it's weird, because when I do write, even the weirdest stuff that I write, I do a lot of research, and I ask people, like, A Beautiful Thing has a golem in it. So I had to ask my friend, I had some Jewish friends about golems, and I wanted to make sure it was sensitive. I didn't want to culture appropriate and all of that. So I sent it to a few. Sent it to a rabbi. A friend of mine sent it to his rabbi. The rabbi never got back to me, so I have no idea. But I wanted to keep it as... So...
He may not be rabbi anymore.
He may like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? But no, I mean... I do a lot of research, especially when I deal with anything dealing with the occult. If I deal with occult practices, I once read a book once, and a woman actually, I wrote her back, "Hey, no one else is going to catch this but me. But you had the wrong Sabbath. You're doing the wrong Sabbath. That you're using the summer solstice for the winter solstice, and it's wrong." And she's like, "Oh my God, we fixed that. Where'd you see that?" I said, "I got it in the library. We gotta go check that," because she said she's not a witch. She doesn't practice, and so she was just pulling things off of Google, and she just messed up. No big deal. Yeah. But for people who do practice, I try to be as faithful to the craft as I can be. So people who do practice will go, ha ha ha, you, and the people who don't practice will go like, well, that's interesting and disturbing. But I do try to stay, for me, horror, if you can stay as truthful as you possibly can to the fantastic, but have it ground somewhere in truth, that to me is much more interesting. And it's a lot more challenging. Because I can just do anything. But if I have actually grounded in something that's actually got a little bit of history behind it, it works for me.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, but has there been anything that you kind of went into thinking you were going to write about, but it just creeped you out so much you didn't want to do it?
I will say when I wrote Stone Baby, I was very happy to be done with Stone Baby.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was just a very dark, terrible place to be for 3 months of my life. That was just writing it, not just researching. Because I was contacting forensics and people asking them, "Can this thing happen?" And he said, "No, it can't happen." I said, "I don't care. I'm making it happen because this is my story." But it was a very dark place to be, and I don't know. A story starts to bleed into me. And especially if I'm writing a very dark thing, it bleeds into you. And I have a problem with depression to begin with. And the last thing I need is to have more of that in my head. So I was very glad to be done with Stone Baby. But no, not really. There's a few things. I mean, I don't like sexual crimes. You won't see me writing about rape or sexual crimes. I don't want to. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
it creeps me out, and it just really.
Yeah,
hurts me
I
too
don't. I
much.
think you probably never had an inkling to do that either. So.
No, never. It's never. I'm trying to think if any of my stories have anything like that in them. Nothing comes to mind.
All right. Well,
No, but sorry, go ahead.
let me ask
Go ahead.
upon that element, because we talk about this a lot. Every time I see you, in fact, I talk about this. Is there
God.
anything you did to Jake that you wish you hadn't done to him?
I really wish I hadn't. Well, this is spoilers. I really wish I hadn't killed Bear in the first story.
Oh yeah.
Well, but it worked out. But the deal is when I wrote the Jack Wheaton Mystery stories, I just wrote that first story to be, a toss-off, really. It's supposed to be in an anthology. It was just a thing. But then the anthology didn't come to pass, and the publisher said, hey, you want to turn this into a series? And I was like, I had no plans. But I did. And so I was like, well, shit, I just killed off his best friend. What am I going to do? But it was great. It worked because, spoilers, Bear comes back. And Bear is a very important part of that particular universe. That universe has everything in it. It's got zombie chickens. It's got golems, sex golems. It's got ghosts. It's got voodoo priests. It's got alchemists. It's got, you name it. We got it somewhere in. Because poor Jake, and Jake's just a dude, and he just falls into this shit show, and I just torture him for like 6 stories. And it was great fun. I had the best time torturing Jake. And did I ever tell you the story of how I got the artwork for Jake?
No.
Okay, the artwork, the cover art for Jake. So the guy who did Jeffrey Hayes. Jeffrey Hayes did the cover art for my Jake stuff and for my Sherlock and my Blood Red Maid. He did all of those stories. But anyway, for the Jake stuff, he asked me, so can you give me like a picture of an actor or something that I can base this guy on? I'm like, I don't know anything. So I just Googled up Hungarian porn star. And that's where I got the picture. So Jake Ishtinhegi, the face of Jake, is basically based on a Hungarian porn star that I just Googled up one day. I said, well, this looks good. Here, use this guy. And that's what he did. He used that guy. He's great. Jeffrey Hayes is a wonderful, wonderful cover artist. I've used him a lot.
That's awesome. I love that.
It's poor Jake. I tortured him for so often. Yeah. Oh well.
Are you officially done with him forever, or do you feel like you have
don't know.
simmering?
I do. I have ideas. Because, I ended the Jake Ishtinhegi stuff, the first 6, ended in the New Orleans saga. And I have it all scripted out for when he starts in L.A., and all the things I want to get involved in L.A., but I just haven't written it yet. I've been working on other things. I really want to get this thing set out. I really want to write. I've got this idea I'm working on. I don't know. We'll see. But those are fun. Those are fun stories, kind of like just for me kind of things that I might just put out under Third Crow just for me and not worry about if I sell or anything. Because it's really hard to sell, quite frankly, pulp. Pulp doesn't sell, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's very much a male-dominated. I remember being in places, in conventions, and guys come up to me and going, I don't read books written by chicks. I don't read chick books. And I'm like, bitch, trust me, none of my stuff's woman. I assure you. I don't write like a woman, whatever that means to you. Ugh, I wouldn't sell to you anyway. Get the hell off my table. So that happens. So anyway.
As someone who's read Jake Ishtinhegi, I can tell you all that it is pulp to the pulp degree, and it's very. It is
so much fun pulp, and I just have the best time, just killing like crazy, and then bringing some supernatural elements and making up my own little monsters, and it's great fun. Like the Boo Daddy. The Boo Daddy is actually based upon an actual legend, but I needed to change it, so I just switched it around and made it for my own. And then when I went to New Orleans, I actually started trying to track down the places that I used in this story. Yeah, it was cool. I found Lafayette's, which is the oldest pub in New Orleans. And nice. I was like, wow, this is nothing like in my story, but that's cool. That's fine. I was just going by what I could find on the internet. But in 1930s, who knows what it looked like. So
sure. Yeah,
I could play with that. So
I'm curious because they read very stage-like. I'm curious if you ever thought about doing a stage play with Jake Ishtinhegi or anything like that.
Not so much a stage, but I would love to do it as a movie. I think it'd make a great. It's got a lot of. It could easily pop over to the film genre.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And I think it'd be a lot of fun as a movie. A monster of the week, just poor Jake being just tossed around and having to go from one mystery to the next to find whatever it is he's looking for at that time. But yes, I've often thought about it. I would love for someone who wants to, make it as a movie. You want to talk about film rights? I got the rights. Talk to me. We can discuss film rights.
Yes.
I would love that. That would be so much fun. Hey, and with Sinners out, this would really kind of go in the Sinners genre.
It's a very good genre.
Right now with Sinners being so hot, have you seen Sinners?
I have.
But because it's too many white people though. Oh well.
Have you thought about doing anything in stage before, like writing something for stage?
Writing a play? Yes, I have. Have I written one? No. But I have, especially when I'm backstage and I'm thinking about, this would make a really cool idea for a play.
Yeah.
And I start writing notes to myself and it never goes anywhere. Because playwriting as well as screenwriting is a whole different monster. I've written scripts. They're terrible, but I played with it. It's a whole different monster. And I think even getting a script produced, it's got to be even more challenging and more than getting a book done.
Yeah, it can be. You have to be more involved with more people.
So much more involved because I had a script.
It takes a lot more money.
A lot more money, I know, because I had a script that I was talking with a guy. He's the film, the cinema guy at Chicago Fire. Mm-hmm. He's a friend of my husband's, and so I was talking with him about making this thing. I sent him the thing, and he's like, "This is great. We could probably do this if you really do it cheap. We can do this for maybe $25,000-$30,000." Wow. I'm like, "Sure, no." I mean, it truly is. It is very, very low key thing, and I was like, because basically he would bring his own crew. He would. I wouldn't pay for that, and but that never happened because then the pandemic hit.
Well,
so that put a lot of things.
These things are the talk about doing something and doing something. Believe me, because I've been stuck in limbo for 2 years. Is it's frustrating as all get out. That's probably the worst part about it. Is when you're that close to doing it and it's not happening for whatever reasons, political, spatial.
Money.
There's so much. Actually, the money is not even the issue with what's going on with me. Oh. It's more of the production aspect of this company's vision and where they want to go and what they're doing. And so, there's just so many things that go along with it. And that's not even just the money.
Yeah, having to deal with suits would be a real pain in the ass. Yeah. I wouldn't want it. If I was going to make a movie, I would really want to have all control to myself. And I'd be like Mel Brooks. You give me money, that's great. I'll show you what I'm doing, but you have no say. You're just a guy with money, okay? You're not an artist. You're just a money guy. So, but no.
You definitely need an agent for that, Nikki.
Yeah, you would. It's never going to happen, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just running my little stories.
Never say never.
Well, I never say never. You never know. I mean, I might write something that someone reads. I've hung out with Jamie Flanagan. I'm always like, what if Jamie Flanagan reads one of my stories? And he has his brother read it, and then, so who knows? So he's a great guy. Have you ever met Jamie Flanagan?
I have not, no. Yeah.
He is the most wonderful guy and writes the most wonderful things. He's great. Really sweet guy.
Well, I'm real excited to see you again in October.
I am too. I cannot wait.
And just have some fun like we do. And thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to me today. I really
thank you for inviting me. So thank you.
Tell everybody where they can find these wonderful books of yours. Just let everybody know where you're at.
Okay, basically you can find all my stuff on Amazon, The Great Evil, but everything's there in Kindle as well as paperback. You can find me on Facebook as, Nikki Nelson Hicks. You can find me on TikTok as Nick Cubed. You can go to my website, nnhbooks.com. I try to be everywhere. You have to be everywhere. So yeah, but all of my stuff is at Amazon right now.
And to all my multiverse friends who have agents,
please tell me how you did it. So
go talk to Nikki, because you will not be disappointed by that conversation. I promise.
I will make you money, I swear.
All right, everybody, that's our show for this Spotlight on the Multiverse. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And one more reminder about the Trevor Project.
Yes.
If you're going to donate, please do so. If you see this before June 8th, please, whatever you donate will be quadrupled through the link that we've provided in the show notes, but it is always there on the Multiverse site, which is multiversecon.org, and that's where you go to be a part of what we're doing here and come with us and join us in October. We would love to see you and have you there, and thank you so much to everybody who was a part of this show and beyond, and we'll see you again soon, because it's always time to go indie now. Bye, everybody.
Go indie now. Bye.